Now we start with the first question. The question was, structures passing through superior orbital fissure are all except. You remember when I taught you on that NMO session, there was a rubber band and there was a central circle. Okay, there was a sellotape. So superior orbital fissure includes everything within the rubber band. Yes, and anything outside the rubber band is not there. So if you remember, the optic foramen was in the lesser wing of sphenoid, which was outside the rubber band. So that means the answer is optic nerve. Optic nerve is not within the superior orbital fissure. Now, most of you have given trochlear nerve. No, trochlear nerve is within the lateral part. Do you remember we divided the superior orbital fissure into 3 zones? Upper, the one within the annulus of Zinn, and the lower part. So trochlear nerve is well within the superior orbital fissure. So the answer to this particular question, question number 1, is which is not within the superior orbital fissure? Optic nerve. Optic nerve is within the optic foramen, which is outside the superior orbital fissure. Question number 2 is about rhabdomyosarcoma. Now, if you had followed that session, NMO session, where I had talked about rhabdomyosarcoma, there were certain things that I had talked about, certain things that I had not talked about. But when you look at the options here, there are certain things that are new to you. All right. Now, how to go about this particular thing? Now, the first option I had discussed, right, that it is coming from the mesenchymal cell, which is destined to become extraocular muscle. So, which is a true statement. But here the question is asking you for a false statement. All right. Now, point number B, you don't know. So, okay, let's leave it. Now, point number C, option number C. The most common age of presentation is 18 months, which is retinoblastoma. I told you the most common age of presentation for rhabdomyosarcoma is 5 years of age. So that was discussed. So you know very well that C is a false statement. So it's very easy to pick up, although you do not know about option D. And option D, what was option D I had given? I myself forgot what was option D. So option D also, I had not discussed in the session, but still, because you know option C is false, your answer is there. And now what you learn from this particular question, you also have learned 2 more points added to your rhabdomyosarcoma. Okay, so point number B and point number D, again I'm forgetting what it was. Okay, right, so that is question number 2. So the false statement is the age of presentation is 18 months, which is false. The most common age of presentation for rhabdomyosarcoma is 5 years. All right, 18 months is for retinoblastoma. Moving on to question number 3, most common cause of unilateral proptosis in adults. Most common cause of unilateral proptosis as well as bilateral proptosis in adults is thyroid eye disease, what was earlier called as Graves' ophthalmopathy. TED is a present nomenclature. All right, and coming to orbital cellulitis. Orbital cellulitis is the most common cause of unilateral proptosis in children. And option B, ethmoidal sinusitis is the most common cause of orbital cellulitis in children. So indirectly, ethmoidal sinusitis becomes the most common cause of unilateral proptosis in children. All right. I don't know if that was option B. So that was something I had to discuss. So that was question number 3. Question 4, palatine bone forms the flow. It's the posterior most part of the flow. It's very simple because below your orbit is your mouth, your oral cavity. So obviously palatine bone has to be in the flow. I hope all of you got it right. So the 3 bones on the flow are the maxillary bone, number 2 the zygomatic, number 3 palatine. Question number 5, again I had talked about it. The thyroid eye disease could be either due to hypothyroidism, hypo, or euthyroidism. It could be due to any of the above. So my option D was any of the above. So either it can be framed as any of the above or all of the above. So the answer is option D there. Now coming to question number 6, I had discussed about preseptal cellulitis and how do you differentiate it from orbital cellulitis. See, orbital cellulitis is more serious and has grave symptoms and signs. Preseptal cellulitis just has that kind of periorbital edema, lid edema, and it's anterior to the orbital septum anatomically. All right, and so the options were RAPD, that means relative afferent pupillary defect. Then you had dyschromatopsia. Option C was, what was it? I forget. Option D was normal visual acuity. Yeah, option C was impaired ocular motility. So obviously, preseptal cellulitis, I told you there is normal vision, there's normal color vision, there's a normal pupillary reaction, the eyeball movement is not affected. So obviously here, the question was preseptal cellulitis is characterized by. So option D, normal visual acuity. Question 7 was very straightforward. What is within the cavernous sinus? So if you remember, there was a lipstick, and surrounding the lipstick was sympathetic plexus. So you've got internal carotid artery, then the sympathetic plexus and the abducens nerve. So all of the above, option D. Question 8, bilateral proptosis may be seen with cavernous sinus thrombosis. You remember why? Okay, so that's a question for you. Why? You will tell me later. All right, so the answer is cavernous sinus thrombosis. So let's first analyze the assertion statement and the reasoning statement. So assertion, I said pulsating proptosis may be seen in NF1, and reasoning, the statement was dysplasia of the lesser wing of sphenoid may be seen in NF1. Okay, so now coming to A, pulsating proptosis, yes, may be seen in NF1. Now why the pulsation? Because of the transmitted brain pulsations. So that's a true statement. Now coming to R, dysplasia of greater wing of sphenoid is seen. Whereas in my question I had given lesser wing of sphenoid. So in your over enthusiasm, sometimes you may not have read it properly. So with a very cursory glance, you must have thought it's true. Whereas it's a false statement. So among all the options, it's E, which is A is true and R is false. Question number 10, it's Hertel's exophthalmometer, HERTEL''S. Okay, it doesn't matter the spelling, but anyway. So Hertel's exophthalmometer is used both to measure proptosis, that is when the eye is bulging out, and also in a sunken eyeball, that is enophthalmos. So the answer is option C, both A and B. All right. So that's a little tricky for you. Many of you would answered A, I guess. So the answer is C. So Hertel's exophthalmometer is used to measure both proptosis as well as enophthalmos. And what is enophthalmos? Sunken eyeball. All right, guys. So that finishes our 10 questions for the mini test on orbit tonight.